So now that we know what scientific notation is, how to write it, how to interpret it, we are going to start to do some operations with scientific notation. So as you can see behind me, I have 4 problems, and I am going to start with division and work my way down to adding and subtracting. You might think that's kind of weird because adding and subtracting is usually a little bit easier. Not necessarily with scientific notation. So you'll see why. So first we are going to do a division problem. 1.89 times 10 to the 27 divided by 5.97 times 10 to the 24. So what we're going to do is we are going to write this using our fraction bar, our division bar, rather than writing it left to right. So we have 1.89 times 10 to the 27 divided by 5.97 times 10 to the 24th. Now what we can do is section this off. We can have this division problem times this division problem. So we have 1.89 divided by 5.97 times 10 to the 27th over 10 to the 24th. So I am going to take my trusty calculator because I don't want to spend time figuring this out longhand. We've got a calculator, we can do that. 1.89 divided by 5.97, and we get that. That's kind of a long decimal. It goes on even longer probably. I'm going to round it to, let's just say 4 decimal places. So I have 0.316 rounding it with the 6. Now, what we learned with the properties is that when we divide numbers that have the same base that are raised to exponents, we subtract the exponent and keep the base. So 10, 27 minus 24 is the 3rd power. You might think that we are done right now, but unless it says otherwise in the directions, if we start a problem in scientific notation, we have to end in scientific notation. That means we have to have a number between 1 and 10 and then a power of 10. We have that power of 10, but this is not between 1 and 10. So we have to move this decimal point over. We get 3.166. But because we do that, we are going to reduce this by 1. All right? So now we have 3.166 times 10 to the 2nd. That is in scientific notation. Multiplication is very similar. Okay? We have 3.1 times 10 to the 2nd power times 6.42 times 10 to the 23rd power. We can use our associative property because all of this is essentially multiplication. We can rearrange things to make it easier for ourselves. So we can put the 3.1 times 6.42, we can multiply that together. And we can multiply that by grouping 10 to the 2nd and 10 to the 23rd power. Let's do this on the trusty calculator. 3.1 times 6.42, and we get that number. That's not too bad of a decimal. Let's just keep that just like it is. 19.902, and now we are going to get a power, a 10 to a power. And we know from our properties in the last lesson, when we multiply exponents that have the same bases, we keep the base and we add the exponents. Okay? So we have 19.902 times 10 to the 25th. You might think we're done, but wait. We need to get this in scientific notation, which means a number between 1 and 10. This is 19. So what we are going to do is we are going to move that decimal place to the left to get a number between 1 and 10. And then we have to adjust. We are going to increase that by the number of places we moved over. Okay. So it kind of seems counterintuitive when we over here, we moved our decimal place to the right, so we decreased it. Here we're moving it to the left, so we're increasing it. Adding and subtracting are just a little bit different. There's an extra step that goes on. So I have 5.97 times 10 to the 24 plus 7 times 10 to the 22nd. I'm going to write that vertically because I can see it a little bit better. We're adding 7 times 10 to the 22nd. Now, in order to do this adding, we have to get our powers of 10 to be the same. So we have to change one of them. It doesn't matter which one we change, but we have to change one of them. So let's say we change this to the 24 to the 22nd. So we are going to rewrite this one down here. So we want to get it 20 to the 22nd power. Okay. So since we're decreasing this by 2, we are going to move that decimal point to the right. It seems counterintuitive. It's like you have to do the opposite of what your brain is telling you to do. Then we're going to just rewrite this. So now what we have is the same power of 10, 10 to the 22nd. We keep the power of 10 to the 22nd. We're adding, we're not multiplying or dividing and doing that fun stuff. Now we have 597 plus 7, and that is 604 times 10 to the 22nd. You might think we're done, but wait, we have to get this a number between 1 and 10. So we are going to move this to the left 2 places to get 6.04. When we do that, we have to increase this by the same amount, 10 to the 24th. We are now at scientific notation. And we will do the same thing over here with subtraction. I have 1.02 times 10 to the 26th minus 4.87 times 10 to the 24th. So I am going to choose one of them to change. I have to get either to the 26th or to the 24th. Let's do the second one. Let's make this to the 26th power. So let's rewrite it, 1.02 times 10 to the 26th. And we're going to change this one times 10 to the 26th. So since we're increasing this, we are going to move the decimal point to the left. So we're going to get 0.0487. That's a little bit scrunchy, I apologize. So we are going to end up with 10 to the 26th. Now we're going to do some subtraction. 1.02 minus 0.0487. So let's do our subtraction. I have to do some borrowing here. We get a 3, we get a 1. This becomes a 9 and 11, 4. We get 0.9713 times 10 to the 26th. But wait, we're not done yet because this has to be in scientific notation. We are going to move this decimal point over to the right, 1 space. Since we move it to the right, we are going to decrease it by 1. We now have 9.173 times 10 to the 25th. This is just going to take some practice. You're not only going to use this in math class from here on out, but you'll also be using this in science class. So good luck with scientific notations and performing operations.